Hello and welcome to my very first speed build. So for this build I thought I would go for a tiny home. Just start by plotting out the basic floor plan. Initially I was going to post a murder house build. It's something I do over on Twitch for my charity streams. I get all of my viewers to upload their sim self to the gallery, and then we try and kill them all off in our murder house. So there's pufferfish nigiri, there's a room full of fireplaces, we lock them in swimming pools, there's quite a few different ways we try and kill them off. The most recent one, the sushi, has definitely been the winner. We've lost 5 or 6 sims to that I think so far, and we've still got another 13 or 14 to kill off, so gonna need to do a few more batches of sushi. I did want to post that speed build, but 5 hours of build footage and potentially about 50 minutes of me just waffling just seemed a bit too much. If you do want 50 minutes of me waffling, I do stream over on Twitch most weekdays, so you're more than welcome to stop by and see it live and in all its waffling glory. So for this particular build, I for some reason chose to go with predominantly cats and dogs, windows, pillars, fences. I don't use them very often, so I thought, well, I'll try it. That window annoyed me. We should be able to place them across 2 levels, but we can't, so that didn't work. I do start just sort of deciding out a basic floor plan. You can see me mentally going, right, well, this is going to be the lounge and this is going to be the kitchen. This furniture was just meant to be placeholders. I think I do end up using those bedside tables and having to size them down because they're mahoosive. The bed definitely changes. I do again try and use cats and dogs doors just to keep it all flowing nicely. I went for the Parenthood cabinets. Loads of people say that they're their favourite cabinets, and I really cannot agree. I don't dislike them, they're just not my favourite, but they seem to go quite nicely in this build. Even though we've had about 20 new half wall sizes, I think I've gone for the standard one that we used to have. And I just started by putting down, again, placeholders in the kitchen. Those cabinets, I wasn't going to keep them, but they do end up staying just because they are the right sort of fit for this build. I wanted to go a little bit smaller on that bedroom, but I really couldn't afford to lose that much space. This is all play tested and it is all functional. This was a bit of a nightmare. I could not seem to get it to fit properly, and especially with that bathroom door being in the way. I couldn't find the right place for that desk. I probably still haven't found the right place for that desk, but it is where it is now. I did have to bring that cooker hood up a little bit because I always think, despite it being apparently the perfect height, it's too high. It's too low, sorry, and I just guarantee I would end up smacking my head off that. So and the floor plan in the living room became a bit of a nemesis. So I wanted to try and keep the living and kitchen area separate. I wanted to try and have some decent rooms, but still with those half walls have it quite open. I could not get this to work properly. It just didn't seem right with that big door and with the half wall right in front of the front door. I just couldn't seem to get it to go. It didn't flow properly, so I do end up knocking that down. And to make sure that this is playable, I have had to budge that little dresser underneath that mirror into the wall slightly. I just put the walls down and made sure that it didn't pop out the other side. I did quite like the style of that bed, but I just didn't like any of the swatches on the bedding, so I do end up scrapping that and getting a completely different one. And again, putting the walls all the way down, budging the furniture back, whether it's the bathroom or the dresser, and just making sure that Sim can still get past it. I did toy with the idea of trying to extend that desk out a little bit, but I ended up going with a bookcase there. It all just seemed a bit busy with those bed swatches, and we don't really have many nice plain rugs that would be the right size for this room. I was cursing those curtains at that point. I feel like they've got more difficult. I don't know whether they've just changed the way that they snap onto the window, or I don't know what it is, but it might have come in an update. They seem to be a nightmare lately. Smaller ones aren't so bad, but the bigger curtains, trying to get those to fit to windows properly, they're just a nightmare. I do love that rug from Strangerville. And I think it's one of those things that I do end up using in most of my builds. If I can get it to fit properly. With this one I have had to size it down, just using the square bracket key. And after sizing down those massive bedside tables, trying to get something to look like it was on top of it, I think it was around then that I decided I need to get the red shelf back in my game. I do have a few mods already in there, so I've got the organised debug, better build by catalogue, so like the expandable build by catalogue, but I don't use it in this video. I also have MC Command Center, which is quite useful when we're doing the murder house. Did toy around with trying to put a bookcase there instead of the half wall, just to have it as a bit of a divider, but it just didn't seem to go right. Could not make it work, so I thought, well, I'll go with the bookcase in that space instead. And then I think it was around there that I completely scrapped the half wall idea, just because the floor plan, I was really starting to hate the build. These city living pictures are usually a go-to in all of my builds because they match, but they're not too matchy. And then I do go around and fix the swatches on a lot of things. Just because some of the items I was like, yeah, maybe, but then the more I looked at it, the more it fit with the build. It just wasn't quite the right colour. I was very aware of the price on this build after a bit. It's definitely not the starter home that I planned it to be. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to keep clutter to a minimum, but still have the odd few items in there to make it look lived in. Most of my normal builds, or if I'm doing a shell challenge, I make my build look quite lived in and quite cluttered. I finally admitted defeat and got rid of the half wall. I do end up getting rid of that little chair. I was going through trying to take some screenshots and realised it was the equivalent of walking in and stubbing your toe on that chair. So that's been, I got rid of that, and then I added some furniture on the back patio after I had finished the recording, so they will appear on the screenshots. And you'll see as I'm landscaping the little patio area that I set out for that. Decided I absolutely hated the light blue and went for a slightly darker tone. I was going to cut all of this out, but yeah, effort. Trying to find the right swatch for this wall, and well, for the outside, including the roof, was a nightmare. I didn't want it to be all shingles or all panelling. I wanted to have that brick base on it, but whenever I found a swatch that I liked for the bottom, it just made it look like bricks on the roof. You'll see shortly. I did not like that in the slightest, so I played around with a few different colours, but unusual, I know, the swatches didn't match. And then I just went for the matching brick foundation, just so it'd tie it all in together. I did toy with the idea of having slightly lighter tiles outside, but then went with the original brick just because it looked a little bit better with that foundation. I was desperately trying to get this rug lined up with the chairs and table, and I gave up eventually. So you'll notice that they're both slightly out from each other. And then I started on the back patio. I wanted to have the fences around the edge, and I know there is a way of doing it where you start the fence away from the house, but it was far too much hassle trying to fanny about with that. So I've gone with just the brick patio. And I do end up putting a little table and chairs out there with a barbecue. I did notice while furnishing the little desk area, if this was an actual, livable build, you would whack your knee so many times on that desk. The seat placement, your right knee would be absolutely battered. But default placing, snap into objects, it happens. And then just carrying on the brick from the raised patio and the raised porch at the back. If I'd have thought about it with the cost of this build, I probably should have gone for debug plants, but didn't, so it's definitely not a starter home. And just adding a bit of terrain paint around the edge. I usually go in darker and then fade it out with the eraser. Whenever I've tried to do it the other way around, it just hasn't looked right. Realised that the landscaping was quite lopsided at the front, so I tried to even it out at the back. You'll see when I post the floor plan and the pictures of the rear that the landscaping is focused more towards this left hand corner, and just easing up that line so when you do go into live mode you don't have a harsh line between the brown and the green of the grass. Pretty sure I blend that bit out at the patio as well. Don't just leave it like this. There we go, blending it out. Had a bit of a panic. I didn't upload it to the gallery like that, but no, I do end up blending it out and just making it look a bit more scruffy and a bit more natural. So this is the final build from the front and from the rear. So you can see there we've got the patio, little table and chairs, and that barbecue, and there is our floor plan. So bit of a zoom in and we'll go down to the bedroom. You can see where I've squeezed that dresser in, and then over to the living room with that nightmare floor plan. Finally got it to work. And that is how our kitchen looks. And then round from the back of the house over to the front. So like I say, all of this is fully play tested and functional. My sim self has done a bit of a tour of the build before I uploaded it to the gallery. I think it ended up being about 40,000 with the with all of the landscaping and with the lot charges. My gallery name will be linked below, so will my Twitch ID. So if you do fancy popping over and watching me build live, it'd be great to see you there.